One of the biggest hit sitcoms of the 2000s got pulled off one network, handed a fresh start on another, and never got a real series finale out of it. Not because the ratings tanked, and not because critics turned on it, but because actually filming an ending would have cost too much money to bother with. We're getting to that one, and it's not even the strangest network switch on this list. Welcome back to the Throwback Network. An NBC sitcom on this list jumped to ABC and then quietly turned into a completely different show hiding under the same name. A network comedy here switched networks, pulled in better ratings on the new one, and got canceled anyway. And a teen sitcom went from 10 million viewers down to 3 million in under 2 years after its own network switch, never coming within shouting distance of climbing back. 10 shows, 10 networks that let them go, and 10 shows that never got back what they lost. Let's start at the bottom. Number 10, Webster. ABC to first-run syndication. Webster spent its first 4 seasons on ABC as a modest but steady hit, built around Emmanuel Lewis, playing an orphan kid taken in by former NFL player George Papadopoulos, played by Alex Karras, and his wife Catherine, played by Susan Clark. By the end of season 4, the show had slipped out of the Nielsen top 30 entirely, falling all the way to 46th place, and ABC decided it had already peaked. Rather than fight to keep it, the network let it go, and Paramount, which already had a syndication deal lined up just in case, picked it up for a fresh run outside the traditional network system, following the same path a handful of other ABC sitcoms took once the network stopped believing in them. What happened next barely even registers as a comeback story. 50 additional episodes rolled out over 2 more full seasons in first-run syndication, and almost nobody was counting them. The show wound down not because of a ratings war or a cancellation fight, but because Emmanuel Lewis had visibly outgrown the role his own show was built around, and the cast and producers simply agreed it was time. The literal final episode, called Web Trek, wasn't even a heartfelt goodbye, it was a Star Trek parody, complete with Michael Dorn showing up in full Lieutenant Worf uniform. This is the softest ending on the entire list. No fight, no drama, just a kid actor who grew up faster than the show around him could keep pace with. Number 9, Sliders. Fox to the Sci-Fi Channel. Sliders spent 3 seasons on Fox following Quinn Mallory and a small group of fellow travelers who slid between parallel versions of Earth using a device Quinn built in his own garage, and the show built a loyal following doing it. Behind the scenes, though, things were falling apart well before Fox ever pulled the plug. Creators Tracy Torme and Robert Kay clashed with the network over where the story should go, and Fox made things worse by airing episodes wildly out of order. Scrambling continuity the show hadn't even finished building yet. Fox canceled it after season 3, and the Sci-Fi Channel swooped in to keep it alive for 2 more seasons, which is exactly when the real unraveling kicked in. Co-stars John Rhys-Davies and Sabrina Lloyd both exited, and lead actor Jerry O'Connell left after season 4, leaving just one original cast member standing by the time the series actually wrapped. Somewhere in that stretch, the show shifted its whole focus toward an alien invasion storyline that felt like a different series wearing the same title. By the time Sliders actually ended, almost nobody who'd made it a hit in the first place was still around to see it happen. Number 8, Diff'rent Strokes. NBC to ABC. For 7 seasons, Diff'rent Strokes was a legitimate NBC hit, following Arnold and Willis Jackson, 2 kids from Harlem adopted by a wealthy Park Avenue widower named Philip Drummond, and turning Gary Coleman's Arnold into one of the most recognizable child stars in the country. NBC canceled it in the spring of 1985 anyway, purely over declining ratings, and ABC stepped in for what was supposed to be a rescue. It wasn't one. 76th out of 106 shows on the air that year is where that 8th season on ABC landed, and the network didn't even let it finish its full order, cutting it off at 19 of a planned 22 episodes before calling it quits in March of 1986. Here's the part worth clearing up on camera, because it gets repeated constantly, and it isn't true. People love to say Gary Coleman's salary demands are what killed this show. That dispute was real, but it happened back in season 4, years before any of this, and it had already been settled by the time NBC let the show go in the first place. The actual reason had nothing to do with the story everyone keeps telling about it. Number 7, Reba. the WB to the CW. Reba McEntire's sitcom followed her character Reba Hart holding a blended Texas family together after her husband left her for his orthodontist, and for 5 seasons it stood as the WB's highest-rated comedy, a genuine anchor for the network. Then the WB and UPN merged into the CW in 2006, and the new network's executives told the studio behind the scenes that they wanted out of the deal entirely because Reba simply didn't fit the younger audience the CW was chasing. Money is the only reason the show didn't die right there. Canceling outright would have meant paying an 8-figure kill fee to the studio, so the CW backed into a shortened, unwanted final season of just 13 episodes instead. Here's the twist. That final season actually pulled in the best comedy ratings the CW had seen up to that point, with the series finale drawing its best audience of the year, and none of it mattered. The show still wasn't renewed. Good ratings couldn't save a show the network had already decided didn't belong there in the first place. Number 6. The Critic. ABC to Fox. The Critic followed a cynical New York film critic voiced by Jon Lovitz, and ABC canceled it after just 13 episodes in 1994, despite reviews that were, ironically, some of the best the show would ever get. A year later, Fox brought it back, produced by the same studio behind The Simpsons, and launched the revival with a crossover episode featuring Bart and Homer to help it find an audience fast. Here's what makes this one different from every other entry on this list. On Fox, the show actually held on to roughly 90% of The Simpsons' lead-in audience, which means this wasn't a ratings problem at all. A new Fox executive simply wanted his own slate of shows on the schedule and had no particular attachment to a show that belonged to someone else's regime. 10 episodes later, in May of 1995, it was gone for good, this time with nowhere left to go. This is the one show on the entire list that got canceled while it was actually working. If you're new here, we dig up stories like this every week, the network decisions and behind-the-scenes shakeups hiding behind shows you already thought you knew. Hit subscribe if that's your kind of thing, because the next 4 entries only get more dramatic from here. Number 5, Step by Step. ABC to CBS. Step by Step ran 7 seasons as one of ABC's TGIF anchors, following Patrick Duffy and Suzanne Summers as 2 single parents who married and merged their families into one loud, crowded house. Years on that Friday lineup right alongside Family Matters came to an end when ABC let both shows go at the same time, and CBS scooped them up together, building a rival Friday comedy block specifically designed to compete with the very network that had just dropped them. The ratings kept sliding for the entire CBS season, and by February of 1998, the show got canceled quietly. Its remaining episodes burned off through June with no official series finale ever produced. 7 seasons of a recognizable, well-liked sitcom, 2 networks in its history, and the ending amounted to nothing more than the episodes quietly stopping without so much as a proper goodbye scene. Number 4. Sabrina, the Teenage Witch. ABC to the WB. Sabrina the Teenage Witch spent 4 seasons as an ABC TGIF staple, regularly pulling in over 10 million viewers a week. When it came time to renew for a 5th season, ABC balked at the licensing price the studio wanted, and the WB swooped in and picked the show up for a fraction of that cost. The numbers tell the whole story after that. 3.8 million viewers watched Season 5 on the WB. 3.1 million stuck around for Season 6, and Season 7 flattened out at 3 million. The WB never even bothered making a formal announcement about ending it, and the last 2 half-hour episodes just got stitched together into a single hour and quietly aired as the series finale. 10 million viewers dropped down to 3 million, and by the end, nobody even bothered calling it an ending. Number 3, Scrubs. NBC to ABC. Scrubs ran 7 seasons on NBC following a group of doctors at a teaching hospital, and NBC canceled it in 2008 as ratings slid. ABC picked it up for what looked, at first, like exactly the fresh start the show needed. Season 8 on ABC actually held up fine, and the real damage came from what happened next. ABC wanted more episodes, so creator Bill Lawrence retooled the entire show for a 9th season. Scrubs Med School, moving the setting, swapping in a new narrator, and reducing most of the original cast to guest appearances. Viewers didn't follow the new format. Ratings dropped to the lowest point in the show's history, and ABC canceled it for good in May of 2010. Most people remember Scrubs getting one fresh start on a new network. It actually got two, and the second one is what finally killed it. Number 2, Taxi. ABC to NBC. Taxi spent 4 seasons on ABC, racking up Emmy after Emmy, and ABC canceled it anyway in 1982, purely over the numbers. Public backlash was loud enough that NBC stepped in to save it, and Judd Hirsch said at the time, quote, "I can only say it's gotta be better, because if it isn't, we're history," end quote. He was right. Ratings on NBC never recovered outside a handful of major cities, and the network canceled the show after just one more season. Not even written as a send-off is how the finale NBC actually aired turned out, ending instead on a cliffhanger about a character possibly getting deported because nobody involved was given the chance to write a real goodbye. One of the most acclaimed sitcoms ever made, and it didn't even get to end on its own terms. 1. Girlfriends. UPN to the CW. Girlfriends spent 6 seasons as a genuine hit for UPN, successful enough that it had already spun off its own show, The Game, while it was still on the air. When UPN and the WB merged into the CW in 2006, Girlfriends moved over, along with everything else the merger swept up. Season 8 got cut down to just 13 episodes, squeezed by the merger's cost-cutting and the writers' strike that hit the industry that same year. The CW canceled the show outright in February of 2008, and just 2 days later, a network representative confirmed there would be no series finale at all, because producing one would be, in the network's own words, too expensive. 8 seasons, a hit spinoff already running, and the network's official reason for skipping an ending came down to a line item in a budget. Not a ratings problem, not a creative problem. The network simply decided that giving this show an ending wasn't worth paying for. Conclusion: 10 shows, 10 networks that let them go, and every single one of them ended up worse off for the move, whether that meant a quiet cancellation, a botched retool, or a network that flatly refused to pay for a proper goodbye. Notice what actually connects these stories. A network cut a show loose over ratings, and a new one picked it up only to make the exact same call a year later. A studio poured money into a rescue that turned into a completely different, less loved show wearing the same name. A merger swept up hit shows and treated their endings as a line item to cut. None of these shows failed because the storytelling ran out. They failed because somewhere in a boardroom, a network decided the show wasn't worth the investment anymore, and the audience never got a say. If one of these surprised you, or if you remember watching one of them make that jump in real time, drop a comment and let us know which one hit hardest. And if there's a show out there that switched networks and we missed it, tell us below, because we're always looking for the next one. Thanks for watching. This is the Throwback Network, and I'll see you in the next one.